You grab the heavy wooden spoon, stirring the simmering pot of tomato sauce as the aroma of garlic and herbs fills the kitchen. Your mind wanders, replaying the tension from dinner last night. You know, with Gerald's job situation, it might be smart to consider moving in with me for a while, Marcella said, her tone laced with a subtle judgment. It'd be an easy way to save money until you're both more financially stable. You caught Colton's uneasy glance before offering a polite smile. That's very kind of you to offer, Marcella, but we're doing just fine on our own. Her eyes narrowed. Of course you are, dear. I'm just thinking about what's best for my family. The unspoken meaning lingered, that you didn't truly understand their bond or priorities. The sauce bubbles, snapping you back to reality. You can't shake the feeling that Marcella's suggestion carried ulterior motives. Ever since you married Colton 3 years ago, you sensed her disapproval lurking beneath the surface pleasantries. The front door opens and Colton calls out, "Bree, I'm home." You swallow your unease as he enters the kitchen, pressing a kiss to your cheek. "Smells amazing. Everything okay?" You force a reassuring smile. "Yeah, of course. Just thinking about that discussion with your mom last night." Colton's brow furrows, eyes downcast. "I know, I'm sorry. She can be pretty persistent when she gets an idea in her head." "It's not your fault," you say gently, squeezing his hand. "I just don't want there to be any misunderstandings about us doing what's right for our family." The words feel loaded, heavy with implications you can't shake. Colton pulls you close, his embrace offering fleeting solace. "Don't worry, babe. We've got this. You and me against the world, right?" You lean into his comforting warmth, desperately hoping his words ring true. Because deep down, you can't escape the feeling that this is only the beginning of a storm brewing on the horizon. The moving truck rumbles away, leaving an eerie silence in its wake. You survey the cluttered living room, boxes stacked haphazardly, while Marcella fusses over rearranging picture frames. "This isn't going to work," she mutters under her breath, shooting you a pointed look. "We need to get things organized properly." You bite your tongue, already feeling the strain. Colton emerges from the kitchen, his expression apologetic. "Sorry, got pulled into something at work. What'd I miss?" "Oh, nothing much," Marcella says sweetly. "Just your wife making a mess of my home already." You bristle, but hold your tongue. Colton squeezes your hand reassuringly before addressing his mother. "Mom, please. We just got here. Give it some time." "Time for what?" she scoffs. "This disorganized chaos? Absolutely not. Brielle, dear, you simply must learn to keep an orderly home." Your jaw clenches as you fight the urge to snap back. Colton's brow furrows, but he remains outwardly calm. "We'll get settled, I promise. Why don't we all take a breather?" Marcella waves a dismissive hand. No, this needs handling immediately. Lord knows that sloppy clutter is how roaches get in." She shoots you another pointed glare. That's it. You whirl to face her, anger simmering. "Excuse me? Are you actually accusing me of being unsanitary and—" "Of course not, dear," Marcella cuts in with a saccharine smile. "I'm simply saying as the woman of the house, maintaining order should be your top priority." You open your mouth, ready to unleash the torrent of anger building inside, but Colton quickly intervenes. "Hey, why don't I make us some lemonade? Let's all just take a beat, okay?" The tension crackles between you and Marcella before she finally relents with a tight smile. "You're right, of course. I'll just tidy up a bit." She sweeps away, her passive-aggressive comments lingering like a foul odor. Colton leans in, his voice low. "I'm so sorry, babe. I'll talk to her. I swear this won't." "It's fine," you interrupt tersely, unable to mask the hurt in your eyes as you turn away. "I think I just need some air." You head for the door, Marcella's earlier words reverberating with stinging clarity. Deep down, you know this living situation is far from fine, and if her subtle jabs are any indication, there's an uglier storm on the horizon. You wake with a start, jolted from an uneasy sleep by the sound of voices downstairs. Rubbing the bleariness from your eyes, you glance at the clock. 2:37 a.m. Frowning, you slip out of bed and tiptoe towards the staircase, the hushed tones becoming clearer. "Telling you, we can't keep going like this." It's Marcella's voice, tinged with agitation. "That money was supposed to last us months." Gerald's tired sigh filters up. "I know, dear, but those spa treatments you insisted on were so expensive." "Don't you dare try to blame this on me," she hisses. "If you hadn't lost your job like a pathetic failure, we wouldn't be in this mess. You recoil at her venomous tone, anger prickling beneath your skin. How dare she speak to him that way after everything he sacrificed for their family? Marcella, please, keep your voice down, Gerald pleads. We'll sort this out, I promise. Maybe Colton and Brielle could help out for a bit until I'm back on my feet. An icy silence stretches before Marcella's derisive response. Help from that silly little social worker? Don't make me laugh. She's barely fit to sort this household, let alone assist with actual responsibilities. White-hot fury lances through you at her callous dismissal of your career. You knew she looked down on you, but this casual cruelty stings in a new way. That's my daughter-in-law you're talking about, Gerald says, a rare edge in his voice. She works twice as hard as anyone I know. Oh, stuff it, Marcella snaps. We both know she's little more than a glorified babysitter skating by on mediocre achievements. Hardly the wife I envisioned for my brilliant son. You feel like you've been slapped, her scathing judgment hitting like a physical blow as tears prick your eyes. This goes far beyond disapproval. She actively resents and looks down on you. I won't listen to another word against her, Gerald says firmly. We're lucky to have Brielle in this family, and you'd do well to remember that. Their voices fade as the argument continues, but you've heard more than enough. Numb with shock and hurt, you retreat to the bedroom, the sick feeling of betrayal churning in your gut. If Marcella really sees you as nothing more than a failure unworthy of her son, you realize with sinking certainty that this living situation is far more toxic than you feared. And unless something changes, you're trapped in the eye of an insidious storm you never saw coming. The dining room table groans under the weight of too much food as the family gathering kicks into full swing. Laughter and animated chatter fill the air, but you can't seem to relax, still reeling from Marcella's scathing words you overheard days ago. Colton nudges you gently. You okay? You seem distant. Forcing a tight smile, you pat his hand reassuringly. I'm fine, just preoccupied with some stuff at work. His brow furrows with concern, but before he can press further, Marcella sweeps over with a too-bright grin. There you two are. Brielle, darling, I simply must get your input on something. You tense instinctively as she loops her arm through yours, leading you away from the group. What is it, Marcella? Well, she begins in a mock whisper, I've been thinking about redecorating the living room, maybe finally getting rid of that dreadful sofa set you picked out. No offense, dear, but it's quite garish, don't you agree? You bristle at her not-so-subtle insult. I happen to like that set, actually. Marcella tuts dismissively. Yes, well, your sense of style has always been interesting, I suppose. She pats your arm in a patronizing way. No need to take it personally. We can't all have impeccable taste. Anger flares within you, but you bite back a biting retort. Just ignore her, you tell yourself. Don't stoop to her level. But Marcella is only getting started, her voice taking on a sharper edge. Although I can't say I'm surprised given your humble career choices. Tell me, Brielle, is playing house with finger paintings all day truly fulfilling for you? You blink, stunned by her callous remark. I'm sorry? This social worker bit, she presses with a cruel smile. Isn't it just laziness masquerading as a job, avoiding any real responsibility or challenge? White-hot fury blazes through you at her elitist sneers. How dare you minimize everything I do? You snap, finally losing your cool. My work makes a tangible difference in lives every single day. Marcella's expression sours into disdain. Yes, and I'm sure facilitating wasteful government handouts for society's dregs makes you feel oh so virtuous. But really, dear, is that the legacy you want, wasting your potential on fleeting half-measures? You miserable, arrogant bye. Everything okay over here? You whirl at the sound of Gerald's concerned voice, the rest of your insult dying on your lips. Marcella quickly rearranges her expression into one of polite confusion. Oh, just a civil discussion about redecorating ideas, she replies breezily. Brielle seems to have gotten overexcited. You know how passionate she can be about these silly little things. Your teeth grit as you struggle not to unleash the torrent of anger burning within you. How dare she dismiss and demean you in front of everyone? Gerald's eyes flit between the two of you, sensing the tension. That's enough, Marcella. Leave the girl be. She huffs out an arrogant laugh. Leave her be? This is exactly the problem, catering to childish whims instead of steering her towards making something of herself. That's it. You've had enough of her condescending cruelty. You mean like her son? You spit out, turning on your heel to storm away. Because clearly that's the only thing you think has value. Leaving a stunned silence in your wake, you fight back furious tears, knowing this explosive confrontation has shattered any illusion of civility. As much as it pains you, you realize there's only one way to liberate yourself and Colton from Marcella's toxic grasp. It's time to fight fire with fire. You pace the bedroom, glaring at your reflection in the mirror as if it's to blame for this mess. Angry tears sting your eyes, but you blink them back fiercely. No more crying over Marcella's cruelty. It's time to fight back. A soft knock at the door makes you jump. "Bree, can I come in?" It's Colton's tentative voice. You take a steadying breath before opening the door. His expression is a mix of confusion and concern. "What happened back there? Mom said you just blew up at her for no reason." You let out a disbelieving laugh. "No reason? Are you kidding me, Colton? She insulted my entire career, my life choices. She basically said I'm a lazy failure." His brow furrows, and you can see the denial forming behind his eyes, always eager to give his precious mother the benefit of the doubt. "I'm sure she didn't mean it like that," he starts, but you cut him off sharply. "Stop making excuses for her. God, just once I wish you'd take my side instead of blindly defending her toxic behavior." Colton recoils, stung. "Bree, that's not fair. She's my mom." "Exactly," you cry, throwing up your hands. "She'll always be your mom first. I'm just the wife, the one she resents for daring to marry her precious son." He opens his mouth, but you barrel on, unable to bottle up the hurt any longer. "I overheard her and your dad arguing the other night. She called me a silly little social worker, said I was unworthy of you and a failure at life." Colton's eyes widen in shock, but you merely shake your head, suddenly weary. "I can't live like this anymore, Colton, with her constantly belittling me, eroding my self-worth. It's toxic." He runs a hand through his hair, distressed. "Bree, I had no idea she felt that way. I'm so sorry. I never wanted to put you through this." You soften somewhat, reaching out to grasp his hands. "I know, and I want to believe you'll finally stand up to her, but after seeing this poisonous side..." You trail off meaningfully. A heavy silence hangs between you before he speaks up again, sounding calmer. Maybe it's time we got our own place again, just you and me." Hope flickers in your chest until an ominous sound cuts through the stillness of the room. You both freeze, straining to listen to the muffled voice drifting in from behind the closed door. "Can't let that insipid girl ruin everything." It's Marcella, her hushed tone dripping with venom. "Get rid of her. Make Colton see reason." Ice rushes through your veins as the horrific realization dawns. All this time, she's been scheming to drive a wedge between you and her son, manipulating your lives through thinly veiled contempt. Colton's face hardens with grim determination. "Enough is enough," he says, jaw clenched. "She's gone too far." For the first time since moving here, your shared resolve surges in defiant unison. You know what must be done to free yourselves from Marcella's toxic web once and for all. It's time to expose her machinations to the world and make her pay for her treachery. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife as the family gathers around the dinner table. Marcella's cheery humming as she sets down a steaming casserole dish feels like nails on a chalkboard. "There we go," she chirps with saccharine brightness. "Who's hungry for my famous tuna casserole?" Gerald mumbles something noncommittal, but Colton remains stone-faced, hands clenched tightly together. I take a steadying breath, mustering my courage for what's to come. "Actually, Marcella," I begin, my voice wavering only slightly, "I think we need to discuss something first." She pauses, fixing me with a look of thinly veiled disdain. "Oh? And what could be more important than family dinner time?" The words stick in my throat for a moment before Colton jumps in, his tone firm. "We know what you've been up to, Mom. The manipulations, the lies." He shakes his head sadly. "It ends tonight." Marcella's eyes widen in surprise before her expression twists into scorn. "I don't know what delusions you've been feeding her, but this is utterly absurd." "Is it?" I challenge, pulling out my phone and tapping the screen. Instantly, a recording of her caustic voice fills the room. "Get rid of her. Make Colton see reason." Marcella pales as Gerald turns to her in shock. Marcella, what is the meaning of this? And nothing. It's been twisted, taken out of context, she sputters, but her eyes dart frantically between us. I lean forward, holding her venomous stare. We have hours of footage from the home security cameras, recordings of every vile thing you've said about me behind our backs. You scheming little... Don't, Colton cuts in sharply. Don't you dare try to deny or justify this, Mom. We heard and saw everything. Marcella's mouth works soundlessly as she struggles to regain her footing. Finally, she seems to deflate, fury simmering behind her eyes. Years I devoted to shaping you into the man you are, she spits out with vicious resentment. And this is how you repay me? Throwing away your own family for... her? I flinch at the disdain coding that final word, but Colton remains firm. You're the one who broke this family, he declares with heavy finality. With your lies, your venom, your obsessive need to control every aspect of our lives. Gerald sits in stunned silence, seemingly unable to process the ugly truth unfolding before us. But Marcella merely sneers, a chilling sense of victory in her eyes despite her crumbling facade. You've made your choice then, she hisses. But mark my words, you'll regret the day you turned your back on your flesh and blood. Rage simmers in my veins, but I force myself to remain calm. Her toxic hold over us is fading by the second. Colton reaches out, tangling his fingers with mine in a reassuring squeeze. No more regrets, Mom, just consequences for your actions. As her face contorts with impotent fury, I know in this moment that we've won. The storm has finally broken, and left only a path of Marcella's own destruction behind. The air feels heavy, charged with the weight of 1,000 unspoken recriminations as the four of us sit in tense silence following my damning revelation. Marcella's face is mottled with fury, eyes burning into me with undisguised hatred, but I refuse to shrink from her vitriol any longer. Finally, Gerald clears his throat, sounding utterly drained. Marcella, how could you? After everything. She cuts him off with a dismissive wave. Don't play the wounded party now. We both know you've been useless since losing that job. The cruelty in her tone makes me wince, but Gerald merely shakes his head with grim resignation. That's enough, Colton interjects, voice hard. We're done with the toxicity, the lies, the manipulations. It all ends here. Something shifts in Marcella's expression, a glint of desperation bleeding through her mask of anger. Don't be ridiculous, Colton. You can't seriously mean to throw away your family over this deceitful homewrecker. The venom in her words stings, but I remain resolute, bolstered by Colton's unwavering presence at my side. That's exactly what I mean, he states, squeezing my hand. Brielle is my family now, my wife, my partner, the one person who's always had my back without ulterior motives. Marcella's lips curl into a sneer. So that's it then? You're abandoning your own mother for this gold-digging nobody? White-hot fury lances through me, but before I can unleash the torrent of outrage burning in my chest, Colton cuts in. Don't you dare speak about her that way, he growls, every syllable laced with quiet menace. After everything you've put us through with your scheming? For a fleeting moment, doubt and uncertainty flash across Marcella's features, the realization that she's quickly losing her grip on the situation, on her son. Gerald speaks up then, sounding utterly defeated. I think it may be best if you both make other arrangements. Clearly, this situation is too volatile to continue. What? Marcella whips around, eyes wild. Gerald, you can't be serious, after everything I've sacrificed? But he merely holds up a weary hand. You've made your choices, Marcella, and they've led us to this point. An ugly sneer twists her features as she turns back to face us, shoulders squaring defiantly. Don't think for a second that this is over. You may have won this battle, but I'll be damned if I let my own son throw away his family over. Her gaze rakes over me with undisguised loathing. Over this. The unspoken threat hangs heavy in the air, but I refuse to be cowed any longer. Squaring my shoulders, I meet her hateful glare with steely defiance. Save your venom, Marcella. The games, the lies, they're all done. A muscle ticks in her jaw, but I can see the fight slowly draining from her eyes, replaced by a simmering resentment that seems to consume her from within. In that moment, I know we've begun to break her toxic stranglehold over our lives. The war may have been won, but the scars remain, and likely always will. The moving truck rumbles away, leaving an eerie silence in its wake once more. Only this time, the atmosphere is markedly different. The air feels lighter, as if a tremendous weight has finally been lifted. I turn to find Colton watching me intently, his expression a mixture of relief and lingering uncertainty. Without a word, he pulls me into a fierce embrace, cradling the back of my head. "We made it," he murmurs gruffly into my hair. "It's really over." I exhale a shuddering breath, allowing the tension to slowly bleed from my body as I melt into his arms. For so long, I'd braced myself against Marcella's onslaught of cruelty and manipulation. But now we're finally free. Eventually, Colton loosens his grip, framing my face with his hands. "Hey, you okay?" I manage a small smile, giving a slight nod. The wounds are still raw, the betrayal stinging, but we've emerged from the storm, battered but unbroken. "I will be." I reply softly. "We both will. It's just a lot to process, you know?" Understanding flickers in his eyes as he nods. "I know, believe me, I know, but we'll get through this together, just like we always have." His steadfast words provide a much-needed balm. No matter what demons lurk in the aftermath, I know he'll be my anchor through the turmoil. A brief silence lapses between us before I venture, "Have you spoken to your mom since we left?" Colton's expression tightens ever so slightly. "Not directly, no. Dad said she's been holed up, alternating between furious ranting and petulant silent treatments." I can't help the derisive snort that escapes me. "So business as usual for Her Majesty, I take it?" He shoots me a wry look, but doesn't argue. Both of us all too familiar with Marcella's flair for the dramatic. An unspoken understanding seems to pass between us. While her callous actions cut deep, we can't allow her perpetual toxicity to fester any longer. Not in our new life. "Well," I declare firmly, squaring my shoulders, "if she wants to stew in her own bitter misery, that's her choice. But I'll be damned if I let her ruin this fresh start for us." Colton's features soften into a small smile as he leans in, resting his forehead against mine. "You're amazing, you know that? After everything she put you through." "She put us both through hell," I correct gently. "But we made it out. Together." He nods, the gratitude and admiration shining in his eyes, making my heart swell. For so long, Marcella's manipulations had gradually eroded my sense of self-worth and confidence. But here, in this moment of new beginnings, I can feel those fractures starting to heal. Somehow, amongst the wreckage of betrayal and toxicity, we've emerged stronger than ever before, unbowed, unbroken, and finally free to build the life we deserve on our own terms. The path ahead is surely paved with its own challenges and demons to confront. But as Colton pulls me close once more, I know without a shred of doubt that no matter what storms may come, we'll weather them together. As a united front, a true family at last.